So this is Trey. He recently just found out that he'd been burglarized. Walked into his house, big mess, kind of like what you'd see on TV. Realizes that he's been robbed. He's feeling quite a bit of stress right now. Turns out that Trey has developed post-traumatic stress disorder because of his burglary. We can see it in several of the symptoms he's noting here. Notice all the tension in his face and his body. He's hypervigilant. He's also been having some nightmares and difficulty just being in his house because it reminds him of the burglaries, but he's spending more and more time at his family's house. And now that he's been brought back into the house, these symptoms are exacerbated. So let's look at Trey's development of post-traumatic stress disorder from the Diathesis stress model. We're going to pretend this magic red line right here equates to mental illness in Trey. If he raises up here so much that he gets to this magic line, he's developed post-traumatic stress disorder. He's going to start out with some diatheses. We all have diatheses. They're just predispositions, things that always stick with us and increase our chances, but are not enough to cause mental illness themselves. He has a genetic predisposition. He kind of got low self-esteem. He doesn't really have much of a support system. He has his family, but it's just his sister. Doesn't have anybody else really. So based on this, we could say that Trey is starting to develop some mental illness, but it's really only about this level here. Now, when we combine the diatheses that Trey has here, the genetics, the low self-esteem, the lack of a support system, and add in some stressors that have been going on in his life. He did start a new job recently. We all always worried about money. Just those two things alone could bring him up further, right? His diathesis was right about here. We add in those first two stressors. Well, he's going up a little more and a little more, but he's able to cope. Okay? He's able to figure things out. He's a fairly resilient guy, and he exercises, and he has a pretty good time management strategy. So he's able to balance this out a little bit and kind of keep it in check without developing that mental illness. But now when we add in this this major stressful event that he's going through, it's too much. He suddenly skyrockets. That stressor from that skyrockets him up above that mental illness platform here, where now it's just too much. He can't handle it. The diatheses themselves were not enough. The stressors, starting a new job, having money, starting a new job is an acute stressor. It's a short-term one, so it would have actually dropped down. But because that happened around the same time of being short on money because, it's a new job, he's got to wait for that first check to come in, and he's been burglarized, it was all just too much in too short of a time. So Trey developed post-traumatic stress disorder because of the diatheses that he was already predisposed towards, combined with the stressors he was able to deal with, and an inability to cope with those stressors. In a normal period of time, he might have been able to cope. If he had a better support system, he might have been able to cope. But because of the amount of stressors in such a short period of time and a lack of support system, we can see how the diatheses, the predispositions he had, plus those stressors, led to mental illness.